he is a guy that I would say, Jesus, help me be like Lance. Like Paul said in the Bible, follow me as I follow Christ. And I believe that's Lance. And the example that Lance sets is, hey, follow me as I follow Christ. Because he's a true follower, and Lance is a guy that has, over the last 2.5 years, impacted my life.
A program was introduced, and I just heard about it by happenstance. The chaplain and the internal activities coordinator were talking about a program called Kairos Inside. I said, that sounds a lot like Residents Encounter Christ. He said, yeah, we've done that before. But this actually had better statistics on outcomes because there was follow through. And I thought, that sounds really interesting. And I saw miracles happen, you know. You sit there and go, really? I met Lance Shockley on that first Kairos weekend. And so I've known him 15 years. It's just kind of amazing because he stood out in the crowds. He's the guy you remember, you know, he's got a presence. And the thing that I thought was most interesting about him was that he was so low key, you know, not pushing, and yet you wanted to hear, you know, his story. You wanted to kind of understand him better. And I wasn't the only one, you know, because it was everybody on that team was having the same kind of response. He was somebody special. We didn't know what he did or why he's there or what it said. We didn't know any of that. But it seemed that Lance was literally taking a role of being a mentor for some of the lost sheep in that prison. The guys who were they didn't know who to trust, and they would come to Lance and he would just settle them down.
I met Lance, I've probably been there about 3 weeks. I didn't know a single person. It was pretty quickly apparent that I was being targeted for God knows what. I'm new, never been in prison before, don't know anybody, nobody knows me. I have no reputation amongst the convicts. I don't even know the rules. I don't know how to live, I don't know how to move. I met Lance by him very gently pulling me aside one day, just pretty early on, me getting over there and saying, hey, I just want to talk to you a little bit. I've got so the guy that you're hanging out with, right, that's been talking to you, I don't think he's got good intentions. Even if he does, the way it looks at this prison is not gonna help you. Lance kind of, he saved me from something that was headed in it could have gone a number of ways, right? Where it ended up with me backed into some kind of a corner or something, right? Any of the million of pitfalls you find in a prison, I was headed for one of them, and he just saw somebody needed help and introduced himself and gently led me out of it. I learned later the guy that I was talking to was a Crip shot caller that we were talking legal stuff. He was giving me advice. I thought the guy was like, nice dude, and nah, not so much, right? And I found out that Lance had also talked to him privately and quietly, kind of intervened before I got myself hurt. So from the very beginning, even before I knew he was helping me, he was helping me.
Lance was the first inmate that Chaplain Wilkinson introduced me to. And we sat and talked and got to know him and all that. And in that first meeting, I was just struck by the humility and the confidence he had in his relationship with Jesus Christ. And Lance was the guy that helped us with deciding what inmates would help lead our small groups. And he was a guy that, hey, if you need anything, let me know. And this is where this is at. This is where that's at. And when you come, I'll make sure everything is set up and good. And that, so he was just like a selfless servant, willing. And I walked away that day because I had no idea that he had a death sentence. And I walked away that day, and I was thinking, man, that guy, man, he loves God so much, and I can see, that love. I can see that he's the real deal, and I was like, what is a guy like that doing here? And then Chaplain Wilkinson shared with me, and Lance, I have never heard him complain, never heard him say, hey, poor me, anything like that. He's always focused on other people. That impacted my life so much.
To about the age of like 32, I was just like a monster, basically, hooked on drugs, heroin, anybody that I could get it from or steal from or get money from to get, or anything I would do, I would sell it in order to get it. To anybody, not caring about their lives or how it affect them. And then I went to prison. I've been in prison several times, in and out. Nothing really worked. I just wanted to get high again, or I got high in there, or whatever it may be. And just continued and continued and continued. And that's when they sent me they C5'd me, put me in the hole for a year. And that's when I met Lance, was at Potosi. Through a friend of mine, Brad, that I knew from before prison, that actually dated my mom. It's crazy how it worked, and he kept telling me about Lance and telling me like, hey, you got to meet this guy, you got to meet this guy. And I was like, yeah, whatever, everybody tells me that in prison, this dude's something different, whatever. And then I met him in Potosi, finally like stepped up to a program to get on the yard. And then he was 5 house, so he's the honor dorm. He worked out there. He cut grass, all that stuff. He's a trusted member. Able to do that kind of thing. They don't give those jobs to anybody with lawnmowers and stuff. And so I met him, and they're like, "Oh, this is the guy we've been hearing about because I was in the hole so long and all that." And they, like, I don't know, like there's a presence about Lance, and like. It was like really that core group of guys, but like Lance kept trying to talk to me all the time. Like we go to the weight pile. Like I was trying to learn how to live my life as a good person. And Lance kept talking to me. He'd go out to the softball field and he'd sit out there sometimes. And I would walk out and go talk to him. And he didn't think I was listening. He didn't think I was listening, but I was. And so, I gravitated towards him. And then so I just started living a different life every day. Like I wasn't hanging out with the gangs or they were trying to affiliate me nonstop. It was insane. And it was always trying to put me in a situation. In some kind of dangerous situation where I would get caught up, like always trying to slide knives under my door. I'd slide them back out. I'm like, bro, you ain't putting that in here. That kind of thing, And like, dude, he took me under his wing. Like, you have an asset in this prison that is constantly like helping people that are getting out to your communities. Because I promise you that if I got back out and I didn't meet that man or go through that with him, that I would come out and be a bigger monster. Because like I was continuing on years and years, like doing more crime, more monstrous things, more not caring about people at all. My family, my kids had no cares at all about them. And like he helped me see the difference of like why, how lucky I am to have a chance to get back out. I got out, got my life together, walked down my paper. I've been on paper since I was 19. I was never gonna, do anything with my life. And I started working, got a job. We got back together, started seeing my kids, and now now I moved back. We were married, have my daughter. We're fighting to get my other daughter half the time. We pay taxes, which is crazy. Um, like I'm a good person now. I try to be as honest as possible and to do the right thing every day. And it's not easy, but I do it because people like Lance pushed me through.
I'm a devout Catholic. I go to Mass daily. I've been involved in Carathon of Potosi since day one. I've seen the changes in guys down there. It was on the Kairos weekend, the first Kairos weekend. God's will was that he and I be at the table together. Who would have known it was going to bring us to this point? I've seen him do stuff that be the first guy to, again, on the weekends, if he's helping us out on the weekend on the serving side, be the first guy to jump in there and clean a restroom. Most guys avoid that at all costs. But he's the first guy to do that. So he'll do the lowest job, and then he'll also do whatever you ask him to do. It doesn't really matter. He did a closing talk for us on one of the weekends. Were just amazing. The whole place was in tears. I think it was the same weekend I think that he served. So I mean, it's an unbelievable talk that he gave, and how much the Kairos helped him realize. And I think that was a big step in his journey. I don't know where he was at for the weekend spiritually, but I know that since then he's definitely is a firm believer in Jesus Christ. No doubt about it. And he's an example of Jesus Christ. I've told him that before. I said, I see Jesus Christ in you. I see Jesus Christ in Lane. By the way, he's willing to help and do anything for anybody.
My name is Jonathan Evans. I'm a correctional officer for the Potosi Correctional Center. I met Shockley Lance almost 2 years ago, in fact. He's a 5-ounce honor guy, which means it takes years and years of not receiving any kind of negative directions or negative, I would say, violations within the prison or institution. Shockley Lance is a beam of light in the prison. He's awesome. Every time I've met him, he's always had good energy, always a good smile on his face, devout Christian. Awesome gentleman. Lance's role is very important, I would have to say. Just seeing him around helps the other inmates kind of keep their head up and stay positive. He's always down to listen to other inmates and their issues and try to help them talk them through it, especially when they're going through hard times. Family is very important to him, and he tries to make sure they feel like they're family when he's around as well. He's very important in this institution when it comes to being positive in a positive morale sense. That man, he's helped both not only the residents that are inside the prison, but also some of my coworkers as well, kind of keep their head up and their faith up.
The interactions that I've seen with Lance when he interacts with other inmates, with the staff, with guards, has been exceptional. He's actually the man who told me the guards, they have hard lives. They see trauma every day. And so it's tempting to see them as the evil guys, but no, they're actually hurting just like the guys who are in that cell or who are in the hole. And so Lance was the one who opened my eyes to that perspective that I've never had before. And I've seen that when he interacts with guards, although in brief, especially in the chapel area at Potosi, outside of the chapel area, I mean, I would see him ask guards like, "How are you? How are you doing? You doing okay?" And it's such a beautiful sight to see because he's building bridges there.
I would go in on Mondays and I would spend basically the whole day there. We had a morning class, and then we'd have some afternoon stuff, and I also did some teaching and preaching on Tuesday night. So I volunteered there for about 2.5 years or so, and I became a chaplain. So the first time I met Lance, it was you meet all the guys for the first time, right? And I don't recall really meeting anybody else for the first time, but I do Lance because we were in the chaplain's office at the time, And the chaplain, we were having this discussion, and Lance comes in, and Lance starts conversing with the chaplain, and I broke a conversation with him, and we began to talk. And it was one of those conversations where whenever you're having it, you kind of feel like, hey, this is the kind of guy that I'd like to friend, the kind of guy that I'd like to be around. He was very positive, very upbeat. He's a go-getter. I could tell all that in his conversation. And so when it was all done, I shook his hand and said, hey, I'm looking forward to working with you more, and found out that he was the leader over the Christian group. And after he left, the chaplain, he said, hey, I just want to let you know, he's on death row, and explained to me the situation. And it was a weird feeling. It was like somebody had punched me in the gut, because I just felt like I had built, just in one conversation, a kind of rapport with him that I was like, this is going to be a guy that I'm going to enjoy being around, and I think we're going to be a good team. I wanted to be on my team, you know.
Lance is the father of my children, Summer and Morgan Shockley. He is a wonderful dad. I know the girls look forward to getting his phone calls. Lance is, he's that type of person that Morgan can, or he will call Morgan, and she'll be like, Dad, this is what's going on in my life. And he will pull scripture. He will, because that's what he studies day in and day out. He has been there for the girls. I know that they enjoy going to see him. I know that they enjoy their food visits, and God watching over them has given them the relationship that they needed with their father.
I'm Morgan Lane Shockley. I am the daughter of Lance Shockley. The relationship with my dad was pretty stagnant, or just on the back burner for me for a long time, because I was hurting from just not having him active in my life. But now, through the Lord's forgiveness and healing of my heart, and as I've matured, and seeing his consistency in my life, even if he's not able to be in it and outside of the prison, that I've just been able to see his love and his care for me, and just his, like I've said, just his consistency in my life, and his advice, and the role that he plays in my life is, I don't have another person like him. He leads me in deeper into the Word, and he leads me in advice of putting people first, and not always thinking that someone's to blame, or that I'm in the wrong, but he's a father, and he's a good one. My dad and I speak like all week. My dad is the spiritual foundation for all of us in our family. He has devoted his time to fully know the Word and understand God's Word and his relationship with the Lord, and he gets to speak that into all of us. His first advice always is to pray on it, and to pray over us, and he's just, everything that ties us together through my dad is the Lord. We couldn't do it without his prayerful consideration and the depth that he puts into each of us in our relationships.
Lance is the most exceptional person that I have ever known in my entire life. He far exceeds any man that I know. His wisdom is just beyond anything. He's helped me my entire life. My go-to for life advice. He never has steered me wrong. He's always been the support that I have needed, and he's like that with everyone. So it's not, just because I'm related to him. He consistently helps others. That is who he is. He's a helper. He's a missionary. I could go on forever and ever to talk about how amazing Lance is.
Lance is the peace, in my opinion. In the eye of the storm, he stays in control. He keeps his composure. Even when everybody else is freaking out, he's just the one who will bring everyone back to level ground.
I look forward to my dad's phone calls. He's, if not every day, every other day. It feels empty whenever he doesn't, on the days that he doesn't, and So it's just super great to be able to have that relationship with him and have the opportunity to have those things. Congratulations, Summer. The day you have dreamed and prayed about has finally arrived. As you enter into this new chapter of your life, I cannot help but think of you and your sister's recent request to hear more of the stories that have shaped my life. It didn't take much contemplation to affirm in my heart what constitutes the most meaningful parts. Before I say anything else, I'd like for you to pause and look into the mirror for 20 seconds. Just trust me here. Breathe calmly and confidently as you gaze at the reflection of the resilient young woman before you. Summer, I want you to listen to me. Who you see in the mirror is my story. There is nothing more important in my life than seeing you happy. Words will never be sufficient to communicate the depths of that. I don't even have the ability within myself to fully express what you mean to me, how much I love you, or how proud I am. Every step of the journey towards today has been a blessing and a reason to praise God for his amazing favor. I can't help but to humbly ask, where would we be without our faith in his consistent, loving character? We truly owe it all to him. Sure, there have been bumps, bruises, blind spots, burdens to bear, and bridges to cross along the way, but nothing has diminished the light you are to me, your family, and the world. Perhaps not too late, I realized my most important job is to be a dad. I am so grateful for you in this moment because you have allowed me that privilege and responsibility. I am honored to not just be your father, but your dad. Thank you for being such a wonderful, forgiving, perfect daughter, as well as an amazing person. Thank you for being receptive to one of the few gifts I could offer, my advice. I know all of your great qualities will translate to your new job, that of being a wifey. Without a doubt, you will exceed expectations in this also. No matter what the days look like on the road we're traveling, or how many sunrises remain, you will be an object of my love and prayers forever. Enjoy your special day, beautiful daughter, and may it be abundantly blessed. I love you very much, Dad. XO. So a lot of makeup had to be redone after reading this letter.
I can't share the name of the Potosi Correctional Center official, but it's someone that's way up there. I was meeting with him, and he made a statement that kind of took me back, because he said, if we had 800 lances in our prison, I wouldn't have a job. So that spoke to me, as that this is who this man is. He has the respect not only of inmates, but he has the respect of custody also. And that's not something you gain easily.
I came from a place of cold logic and rationale in my mind. I thought the Bible was nonsense, but I was a person that had never read it. So that kind of changed with Lance. He, watching because of my interactions with him and knowing him, I saw what was possible in prison. I saw that I was expecting to, have to get face tattoos just to survive, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what, this is Potosi, this is death row camp, this is the maximum security level 5 prison in Missouri. I'm thinking just to not be raped or stabbed, I'm gonna have to join a gang and become somebody I'm not. And you meet Lance, and he is so unapologetically himself, and so good. He's walking with God every day. Everybody respects him and leaves that alone. He's been there for years when I meet him, years. You think like guards are trying to emulate him, right? You got inmates trying to emulate him, and it's all because he's at peace with his Lord. He's secure in his faith, and he's walking it every day. I didn't realize that sort of thing was possible in a place like that. So prison was not at all what I expected because of his example. Maybe I'll give that a chance, right? Lance has got some good advice, it sounds like, and he's not in a gang, and he's been here for how long, right? 15 years maybe at that point? A guy on death row with 2 daughters that are on full ride scholarships that come to see him every weekend, that love and adore him, and he's leading people. That has got to be one of the greatest proofs of God that I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it's a revelation to be that good of a person, to be that person, and to be able to be that person day in and day out in that place.
Like I said, I worked closely with Shockley Lance over the past 2 years. Not knowing that he's going to be there to help me in a situation, I'm going to, I guess, I would say there are some situations where I'll think, okay, man, I wish Shockley Lance was here to speak with this person or this individual. So that way it would prevent this kind of crisis from happening. IPS is a role where we employ some of our residents or inmates, or however you say, to assist in matters of, we call it crisis intervention. It helps prevent any misunderstandings go further than it needs to be. Of course, he's stopped plenty of times where we've had to call on him to come speak with other individuals. And then they realize, okay, I'm just in this moment. I need to realize, okay, what would Shockley Lance would do? And that, man, that also helps on both, not only the inmates' side, but also some of my coworkers. A lot of correctional officers also agree with that sense. So CIT is what we call it on our end, but IPS is similar. So they prevent those kind of crises from stepping to a step further that it doesn't have to. And he's definitely prevented plenty within the whole prison, no matter what housing unit he's in. He's willing to always assist, no matter what circumstances he's in. He's willing to always assist, always comply.
I think he's a calming. I mean, I've seen some guys come pretty stressed out or whatever, and I'm just kind of, I don't say he doesn't get in their face. I've never really seen that, but I've heard the stories where he'll step right in there and calm down a situation. And he's idolized by the guys in the wreck over there. I'm talking about the officers. They think the guy's a great guy, and again, we'll do whatever he takes. And I don't want to make it sound like I'm just hammering on Lance and like he's this hero, but he truly is. That's just who he is. I was always pro-life in the kid side, the abortion side, from day one. Always have been. And then I realized, I don't know, through prayer or whatever, that I was such a hypocrite that how can you be one and not the other? Which just seems like you should die when God says it's time for you to go through natural death. And there's no other way that, in my opinion, there's no other way it could, should, or should be. So it doesn't solve the problems. It doesn't make the pain for the family go away, the victim's family go away. It doesn't solve any of the problems. In some cases, I think it's probably worse because they don't feel better because that's what they thought they wanted.
I mean, I never, before knowing Lance and before knowing the situation, I honestly didn't think that much about the death penalty and that, it's the court system, okay, they handled down. But I do know this. I know what the Bible says. And in the book of Job, Job made a statement, and he said, the Lord gives and the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. So it was in the Lord's hands, that life and death. In the beginning, God created. And so I believe this. I believe that every person's life is in the hands of God. And so with the death penalty, there were guys like Moses in the Bible. He could have experienced the death penalty, but God spared his life. There was David in the Bible who deserved the death penalty or could have experienced the death penalty, but God spared his life. And then in the book of Acts called him the apple of his eye. And then there was Paul in the New Testament who stood over the cloaks of others who would stone Christians. And Paul should have experienced the death penalty, but God spared his life.
My opinion of the death penalty has changed over the time since I've known Shockley Lance. Shockley Lance has shown me that there's opportunity for change, there's opportunity for positivity, there's opportunity for a person to prove themselves.
That whole thing of an eye for an eye, I think are taken in the wrong direction, because an eye for an eye, a tooth for tooth, is meant to limit the amount of reprisal one might have. But that doesn't include the death penalty. And then we get into, well, what would Jesus do? Well, we know what Jesus would do. It came up, well, at least once with the woman caught in adultery. Was anybody executed that day? No. No. Did Jesus even condemn her? He said, just don't do that anymore. It is about that. And then you think about Jesus. Unjustly confined, unjustly executed, the sacrificial lamb.
If we're looking at rehabilitation, if that's the goal, let's stop this and let's look at that. But he's made a huge impact. And he's made a huge impact not only on other guys that are in PCC, but the staff and with his community and with his daughters, and the impact that his daughters are giving their community, and his other relatives that he's so close to that have he's done things and he's been involved with things, and the impact that he's had is greater than I've seen of any of the inmates inside.
But I would encourage the governor to not take just a day, but a few days, maybe a week, to reflect on what it means to be merciful. I would tell him that Christ did not come just for the beautiful and the strong. He came for the broken and the very ugly. And even to them, Christ showed compassion.
Yes, I have a message for the governor, and I wanted to write it out. It's just a brief message, but it speaks magnitudes about Lance. So what I would like to say is, Governor Kehoe, I wish you knew Lance personally, like so many of us do. I'm sure you would agree that Lance is a man that deserves clemency. I know you are a man of faith, and my prayer is that you will seek God on Lance's behalf, and I trust you will do the right thing. If ever there was a man that deserved clemency, it is Lance Shockley.
It has truly been a privilege to serve my brothers at this Kairos weekend. An answered prayer to be able to give back to a family that has been instrumental to the man I am today. In my limited capacity, I could never have been envisioned what God had in store for me. He turned my hatred and bias into a love for everyone. He changed me from being entirely self-centered into a man that desires to put others' interest above his own. Kairos brothers and sisters, we now share the responsibility. The kindness and the love we have been shown must be reciprocated to others. We are being called to give back to whom we can.